Eala arrived in Birmingham carrying far more than a tennis bag. She carried questions, pressure, exhaustion, expectation, and the uneasy feeling that the season was beginning to turn against her. By the time she stepped onto the grass at Edgbaston Priory Club in early June 2026, the narrative surrounding her had shifted dramatically. Just 3 months earlier, she had been celebrated as one of the fastest rising stars in women's tennis, a historic talent from the Philippines climbing into the world's top 30 and threatening to become one of the defining faces of the next generation. Now, suddenly, people were asking whether the grind of the tour had caught up with her. And honestly, the concern did not come from nowhere. The clay season had been brutal. When a year began, everything seemed to point upward for the 21-year-old Filipino sensation. Alexandra Eala had opened 2026 with momentum, confidence, and the belief that she was finally ready to establish herself permanently among the elite players on the WTA Tour. She had reached the semifinals in Auckland, produced impressive hardcourt wins, and climbed to a career-high ranking of world number 29 in March. For Philippine tennis, it was unprecedented territory. No Filipino player, male or female, had ever reached those heights before. But professional tennis has a way of humbling even the brightest rising stars. After the hardcourt swing ended, Eala entered the clay season knowing it would be the toughest stretch of her year. Clay had never fully suited her natural game style. Her tennis is built on aggression, early ball striking, flat ground strokes, and taking time away from opponents. Grass and fast hard courts reward that style beautifully. Clay does the opposite. It slows the ball down, extends rallies, and forces players to construct points with endless patience. The results reflected the struggle immediately. In Linz, she showed flashes of promise before falling in the second round. Stuttgart ended quickly with a difficult loss to Leylah Fernandez. Madrid brought another early exit. Rome provided a brief glimpse of progress, but not enough to change the larger picture. Strasbourg ended almost as soon as it began. Then came Roland Garros, where she faced her friend Iva Jovic and exited in straight sets. 6 clay tournaments, a losing record, early exits everywhere. The numbers began to paint a worrying picture. Fans noticed it. Analysts noticed it. Former professionals noticed it too. Her serve, in particular, became a major talking point. Former British number 1 Greg Rosetsky publicly pointed toward the physical demands of the modern women's game, arguing that Eala would need to become stronger physically and improve her serve consistency if she wanted to stay near the top of the rankings long term. The criticism was not cruel, but it was direct, and, perhaps most importantly, it was accurate. Against Iva Jovic at the French Open, Eala struggled badly behind her first serve. The free points were not there. The confidence was shaky. The physical wear for months on tour was beginning to show. So when she landed in Birmingham for the grass court season, there was both excitement and anxiety surrounding her arrival. Grass was supposed to save her season. Historically, the surface had suited her far more naturally than clay. Her low, flat ground strokes skidded through grass courts with dangerous speed. Her aggressive instincts suddenly became advantages again instead of liabilities. Previous strong performances on British grass had already hinted that this could become her best surface. But before her singles campaign even began, things suddenly became uncomfortable again. The warning signs started during doubles. One day before her opening singles match against Priscilla Hahn, Eala partnered Czech teenager Nikola Bartonkova in doubles at the Birmingham Open. At first, everything looked fine. More than fine, actually. They stormed to an early lead against British favorites Harriet Dart and Maya Lumsden, taking control of the match and looking sharp together. Then, inexplicably, the momentum vanished. The British pair came roaring back. Eala and Bartonkova recovered to force a deciding tiebreak, even earning match point at 9-8. 1 point from victory. One clean shot from avoiding all the questions that would follow. Instead, they lost the next 3 points. Defeat. And suddenly, social media exploded with concern. Why? Because this was not happening in isolation. Just days earlier at Roland Garros, Eala had quietly withdrawn from doubles without any real public explanation. Fans had already been nervous about fatigue, workload, and physical wear after months of nonstop competition. Now, another emotionally draining loss combined with visible exhaustion on court caused people to start connecting dots. Was she injured? Was she simply exhausted? Had the long clay season drained more from her than anyone realized? Even worse, some fans remembered reports from earlier in the season suggesting concerns had already existed privately about her physical condition and workload management. That history made every difficult moment suddenly feel more significant. And this is what made Birmingham so fascinating. Because by the morning of her singles opener against Priscilla Hahn, the atmosphere around Alex Eala had completely changed. What should have been a routine first-round match at a WTA 125 event suddenly carried enormous emotional weight. She was the top seed. She was supposed to dominate. But the questions surrounding her felt louder than the expectations. People were no longer asking how far she could go in the tournament. They were asking whether she was even okay. Then she walked onto the grass and answered every single doubt herself. What followed was not merely a victory. It was a demolition. Eala destroyed Priscilla Hahn 6-0, 6-2 in just 59 minutes. Not only did she win, she completely overwhelmed her opponent from the opening point. The first set lasted only 22 minutes and barely resembled a competitive professional tennis match. Eala won every single first serve point in that opening set. Every one. Her timing was perfect. Her movement looked free again. The confidence that disappeared during the clay season suddenly returned the instant her shoes touched grass. And that is what made the performance so significant. It was not simply about the scoreline. It was about what the match represented psychologically. For weeks, people have been measuring Alex Eala by her weakest stretch of the season. The clay losses had become the story. The fatigue had become the story. The questions about her serve and physicality had become the story. Then, in under an hour, she reminded everyone why so many people inside tennis believe she is destined for something much bigger. Grass unlocked her again. Her aggressive baseline game became lethal. Her flat forehand stayed low through the court. She attacked early, denied Hahn time to settle into rallies, and dictated nearly every exchange. Even when Hahn briefly recovered in the second set, Eala immediately shut the door. The match ended with authority, and perhaps more importantly, it ended with relief. Not because she won a first-round match at a WTA 125 event, but because she looked like herself again. That was the real headline. Afterward, she acknowledged the Filipino fans in attendance directly, a small but emotional moment that reflected the connection she has built with supporters around the world. That fan support has become one of the defining parts of her rise. Whether in Melbourne, Indian Wells, Rome, or Birmingham, Filipino fans continue showing up in enormous numbers, turning even smaller tournaments into emotionally charged environments whenever she plays. Former players have noticed it too. Greg Rosetsky described her as a major asset to women's tennis, pointing specifically to the passionate Filipino support she brings everywhere she competes. And increasingly, people around the sport are beginning to realize that Alex Eala is becoming more than just a promising young player. She is becoming a global sports figure carrying the hopes of an entire tennis nation with her every week. That pressure is enormous, and Birmingham showed both sides of it. The vulnerability, the exhaustion, the fear that maybe the schedule was becoming too heavy, but also the resilience. Because the truth is, professional tennis careers are not built during easy stretches. They are built in moments exactly like this, when confidence is shaky, when criticism is growing louder, when physical fatigue feels real, and when the world starts wondering whether you're slipping backward. Alex Eala answered all of that on the grass in Birmingham. Not with words, with a 6-0 first set in 22 minutes, with fearless ball striking, with composure after weeks of disappointment, and with a performance that reminded everyone why the grass court season might still become the defining chapter of her 2026 campaign. Now the conversation changes again. No longer, what's wrong with Alex Eala? Now the question becomes, how far can she really go on grass? And with Wimbledon approaching fast, that is a question the entire tennis world suddenly wants answered.